In this video, we're going to begin creasing the propeller pieces. All right, so let's go ahead and select the propeller object, and let's ungroup, or not ungroup, but open the group, I should say. And let's select this piece here and go to our modify panel, and I'm going to add a crease set modifier to this. But before I do, let's make sure that we have all of our details. You can see here that we have this edge that we need to add in. Now I could go ahead and crease it and then add an edit poly modifier above the crease set and then add another one, but I would much rather just use the edit poly that we have right now. So let's go ahead and use edit swift loop, and we'll just add this new loop here, and I'm going to take that new loop and chamfer that, and let's do a chamfer of, let's say, maybe 0.5 or so, and let's try to drag that up. For some reason it's kind of chugging a little bit. Let's do 0.05. Yeah, 0.1. There we go. So hit OK on that. Let's go to polygon mode. And let's hold down Shift, drag, and click on that. And then we'll use extrude. And let's do negative, but let's make sure we're doing it by local normal. And let's do negative 0.2. And then hit OK. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and add our crease set modifier to this. And with the crease set modifier added, let's go to edge mode. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the open subdiv just so I can see this. And I'm going to select all of these edges. Now because these objects are instanced, we can go ahead and just do this to 1, and then we don't have to worry about the rest of them. So let's do 0.2. And then turn off edge mode on our crease set, turn our open subdiv back on. Okay, that looks great. Let's go back to the crease set, and let's select the rest of those edges. And then I'm going to hit F3 because I also want to grab this edge down here that we've extruded into this. And then I'm going to grab this bottom edge. Even though it is inside of this and we won't see it, it will affect the smoothness of the rest of the geometry. So just be mindful of that. Let's go ahead and just right click and add that to the selection. Open subdiv. And we have this nice little crease here. Let's turn off the crease set. Everything looks good there. All right, now that also has been applied to everything else. And now all we have to do is go ahead and select the actual propeller. Do the same thing. So in this one, I don't have any changes that I would want. I might want to add like a little bit of a rim right here just to separate this top piece. So I'm going to go to Edit and Swift Loop. And I'm going to add that there. Let's go to polygon mode. Select this polygon, hold Shift, and the next one. And then we'll just extrude that in a negative direction. So let's do negative 0.2. And then hit OK. Now with that, let's add our crease set modifier. And then once that has been added, let's go to edit, or edge mode, turn off open subdiv. And let's select all of these edges all the way around here. Oops. And sometimes it's selecting the back face. Let's try to turn on ignore back facing. And then let's go here. I do want all of these. Okay, so now I've got all of those edges selected. And let's do these as well. Okay, that goes all the way around. And then don't forget the bottom of this. So select that entire loop there. We may have deleted that out, so it may not have any effect. Now with this, let's go ahead and create the set. 0.2. Just turn on open subdiv just to check that out. See how it creases those edges and makes it nice and tight. Looks good. All right, I'm happy with that. Now I want to tighten up the fan blades a little bit. So I'm really wanting this shape right here. So I'm going to select that loop. And what it's going to do is it's going to pull that into that position. So let's add that as a new crease set. And let's do 0.15 just to get us started there. And that feels good, but I want to go a little bit higher. Let's maybe do 0.25. All right, so that's starting to look good. Now let's harden up the edges. I don't want that edge. And I'm actually going to remove that one. Do the same thing for this one. I'm going to remove that one and this one. So that goes all the way down to the end. And let's do these two. And then finally, these loops. Remove this edge. And then I'm also going to remove these edges. And so let's add those to a crease set. Go ahead and start to bump that up there. And you'll see how it starts to kind of flatten out the shape of those blades. Now I also want to add these corner pieces to it. And so let's create a crease set with that. What that's going to do is it's going to try to keep the original shape of that blade. Okay, that feels pretty good. And we have that thickness. I like the way that it's kind of going into the rest of this piece here. We could go ahead and select these that we took off, and we could add those to a crease set, but we wouldn't crease it quite as much. So it'll kind of help with the overall shape right here. So add it to a crease set. Let's do 0.1. So it'll kind of help transition that into these shapes. Now, the next thing that I want to do is I want to take this loop right here. Obviously not all the way through. I don't want to include these edges. And I don't want these edges either. So we'll try to deselect these the best that we can. Hit F3 just to kind of help you out with that. And hold Alt to deselect. Okay. So what this is going to do is it's going to crease these edges and kind of flatten it off at the top. So we'll pull this up. And that feels pretty good. I'm happy with that. Let's do maybe 0.15. I don't want it to be quite that drastic. So now that we've finished that, just want to take a look at the rest of this. Just kind of see how those fan blades or the propellers feel. They feel nice and sturdy, and they transition very well into the rest of this. So I'm really happy with that. I like that right now. Next thing that I want to do is I just want to make a quick modification to the tops of this. Looking at just this right here. Let me show end result on that. I feel like that flattens out a little too much. So what I want to do is just pull that up slightly. Just to kind of round that off a little bit more. If you need to, go ahead and turn off the open subdiv. And try to raise that up. Oh, it's sticking to the face, that's why. There we go. I had the face constraint turn on. So now you can see it kind of raises that up and it makes it feel a little bit more pronounced. Better little detail there. So let's turn off the vertex mode. Now we've smoothed that out. We can go ahead and actually close that group. Make sure you have one of the objects selected. Close the group. And there we go. So now that's smoothed out. We've got the rest of the drone body. The propellers are all smooth. That feels great. The battery that goes on the back of this, I do want to kind of work on the shape of this as well. There are a few things that I would want to add for the details. On this particular object, I want to create kind of like a little grip to actually pull this battery out. And so we'll talk about creating that and adding those details in. And also I think there's going to be a little bit of like a clip that kind of raises up off of this. And so we'll talk about creating those details next.